All right, so with our handsome Mr. Leon, nice check-in, sir. We're gonna do a little bit with starting off going to our place and maybe start with some stays. He's like, lady, throw the food. So we'll do a couple little finds just while I'm blabbing. So if again at home, you guys have a crate set up, but not necessarily a dog bed out and about or a target, you can do whatever feels comfortable for you guys. I know some students have limited space, so they only have like the crate section with their little dog bed inside. Other families will have dog beds or cots and different varieties of things. So if when we're trying to set up Mr. L, I would recommend to pick a slogan for your target spot. I know he had been, or your previous lady had worked a bit with going to her spot, working that place behavior. So if this is very new for him, I'd recommend to just make it fun to go to the target, and then we might start to implement that stay. So we'll kind of get him in the groove in just a moment. I'm just going to do another little find it. Make sure my cot is in the right spot. I feel like there's a bug over here, but I'm not sure. Oh, no, maybe. Nope, just a piece of food, just kidding. So I just didn't want it to be like a biting bug, just in case, you never know, for the pupperoos. He's like, where'd it go? Nice. So we're gonna see if we can have Mr. Handsome. Yes, nice job. So any part of his body going near or targeting the item, I'd feed him for that. So if he's never done a raised dog bed, he's doing quite well. But if this was a bit spooky, I know we've dived into this in the past, is we don't want to force the puppies to choose between feeling safe and, for example, getting a food reinforcement. So that's a great way to at times either poison the skill or poison the food. So if, let's say, he found this to be really scary, but he would really love the food, you'll see that there's this conflict where he wants to scuttle back, but is slightly intrigued, but at the same time, there is that inner battle going on. So if, let's say, this was a bit spookier for him, I may not go ahead and do it this way. I may even flip it the other way around for a second. He's a little bit unsure with the sounds that it's making. So I'm going to flip it over for a second. Nice. And we're going to try it a little bit upside down. So upside down may not be as spooky because it doesn't squeak and it doesn't feel hollow. For some of the babes, if the item feels like it moves underneath them, then that can start to, nice job, feel a little too hard, too fast. So for right here with Mr. L, we're just building up that going and even sitting on it and kind of just being on the bubble. Really great idea. Nice. So you'll see that my rate of reinforcement is kind of high. I know Mr. B says, why not my turn yet again? So if, for example, we're a bit stingy with our reinforcements, remember that from their puppy's perspective, none of this has value, nor does it make any sense. So to make it seem appealing and to make it seem valuable and something he'd like to offer once again later, we have to create these, again, bank accounts where the behavior has had a lot of good deposits. Nice. What a smart boy. He's doing great. He's like, this is amazing. He says a little bit slippery now under his caboose. He has to adjust himself. Nice job. So let's say right here, we're going to go ahead and lure him away. Even though I'm not going to go ahead and feed him for getting off the cot, I want him to think the best part is for being on it. So again, this is the beginnings of those lovely stay positions. So we're going to get, he's like, he was about to step up onto it because he's like, it was raised last time. So I'm going to feed him for this. And we're just going to feed a few reps for just being on the target. I haven't technically mentioned my stay cue, but for right now, I'm just having him go through the moves. So before implementing like the cues or like the words to the skills, I tend to actually like to have the puppies get comfortable with how to do it, figure out their body mechanics, and then start pairing the cue word prior to the behavior and then feeding for that response. But the main goal is if the puppy is being successful, even feed for the glimmers or the beginning stages. So again, we're going to have him kind of come off his little bed for a second. There we go. There's a piece of food stuck on my shoe. So now we might go bed. Yes. Smart boy. So I'm just feeding for even placing on it. Then we might tell him to stay. And now if, let's say, I'm adding a bit of stay, I'm not going to tweak up the time frame too heavily. I don't want to make this so hard that he needs the feeling of getting up is his next step. So right here, I'm feeding. He's like, don't go too far, lady. Yes. Nice. So I don't mind if he adjusts. I think he feels that it's a bit slippery under his back end. But the main goal is that he's holding the position of being on his little thing, which could be, again, in a sitting or a down position for later. Nice. So I'm going to feed him his last little rep. Oh, we dropped that one. Hold on. That was my bad. My fingers got too slimy. You can eat it. So let's pretend you didn't drop your food, you know, again, me, the handler, and the puppy didn't go to grab it. So his slimy hands do cause problems. So let's pretend he didn't wiggle. I'm going to feed him that rep for holding his sit stay. And then when I want to end it, I would, again, feed him his last little morsel for that behavior. And if your puppy doesn't like touch, you could say, all done, and then get them up and wiggle. But you're not going to go ahead and bombard them. So if they're scared of touch, you don't have to go and touch them with a pat on the head or a pat on the chest. You can simply use your slogan, which means you're finished. I typically like all done. Other folks have done free time, release, all set. Pick a word that makes sense. So we're going to, again, go back to our bed. We're maybe going to get our sit. I'm going to feed him for that first little setup. And now I'm going to tell him to stay. And then if this was going really well, you want to think about your 3 Ds. So there is your duration, your distances, and your distractions. So if in the beginning right now, my duration is maybe every 3 to 5 seconds tops, I'm not going to magically go from almost 2 to 3 seconds or whatever I'm doing to now magically 30 seconds between the intervals. If I start to make things go too quickly and with too many of those elements all at once, the puppy is more than likely going to get up and wiggle and break often. Excuse me, and then you're going to get frustrated and he's going to get confused and no one's going to have a good day. Nice. So if, let's say, notice how I went a little too far from him. For him, he gets a little bit unsure if I go a little out of his range. So when you're practicing, again, stay, you may find that there's limitations to when you're first starting. And in the beginning, that might be where you first end up, starting the journey. But eventually, as they get more fluid, you start to add in bigger distances or more difficulty for distractions and things that are happening around you. But if in the beginning, every time you go to practice, your puppy ends up wiggling, then they either don't understand or they're feeling overwhelmed. But the environment could also be driving your puppy's inability to function. Yes. So again, I'm going to go ahead and feed him his last little morsel. I'm going to say all done, and we can get up and break. Nice. So with this lovely stay position, nice job, sir. Smart boy. He's like, I'm going to go back to it. It seemed like a good idea. So the whole point of this game is building value in taking a pause and vegging in a spot, which for, again, most puppies seems pretty silly. So what you can also do through building up a place behavior is help your puppy go take breaks when otherwise they don't know how. So if your puppy, though, is all over the place and bombarding his older sister or whatever it might be, is I would recommend a quieter puppy zone, which could be a crate, a corral, can be a separate little kitchen area or something like that with a baby gate. So you guys will have to find what configuration works well for your household. Ready? So if he goes to wiggle, I'm going to reset him up. He wasn't technically put into a place position, but I want to just keep feeding him for rocking it a few more reps, and then we'll get up and break. Nice. Ready? All done. So we'll get him up. He's like, I guess so. So, and if your puppy needs a break from being stationary, find it, and other movement behaviors will be really helpful. So now that he's already kind of done, we'll do a little find it, get him up and moving, stretching his little legs. Ready? He's like, hold up, smells. He's like, I swear there might be a leftover somewhere. So if, let's say, for example, you're working with some of these place positions, and your puppy is not doing so hot, I would also gauge how much activity has the puppy done. If they've already had their exercise needs met and they're still super wiggly, they could be overtired and may need a softer, more confined zone to relax. For other puppies, they may, for example, have not had those needs met, which means that then for some, they're much more eager and wiggly because they already were taking a nap for 5 hours and now they're ready to go be wild. So you'll have to gauge it based off of again, what your puppy's giving you for information. Nice job, sir. He's like, sits are his favorites. Good job. You're so smart. So obviously, when including something novel, start off sort of at a softer level. So if this was a bit spooky the other way, I'm just going to see if I can try it for a second. He's like, oh, you wanted it down? So we'll see if we can try with it back upright, and we'll just see if he can feel comfortable just doing a couple, targeting moments. So I might just make it kind of like intriguing to go and check it out. I just want to make sure that his body language is telling me that he's not too flustered. Right now, it wasn't too shabby going and smelling it. Nice job. He's like, could there be more snacks? Perhaps. So now we might try for that little sit on it. Oh, brilliant boy. What a smart man. So even if I didn't apply the stay, I'm just building, again, those awesome deposits into this account. And the account right now might technically just be trying something new, like a raised dog bed. If he does have a raised dog bed at home, it could be working it here versus working it at home is enough to throw him off. So remember how puppies are really bad at generalization. So what he learns in one environment with one person with certain criteria, he won't instantly take that and be like, oh, that's the same thing we could do outside or at my neighbor's house or while on a walk. That's where it's going to, that was my bad. We'll find him later. That's where we're going to have to be the one to help the puppy learn how to generalize those skills. Right? We'll do one more and then we'll be all done. All done. Ready? So very, very nice job with the novel dog bed. And there's the friend I lost earlier. Ready? Find it. Good job. But for homework's sake, for Mr. Handsome, always feel free to, guys, for any of the babes, to reach out and check in if you have other things that are going on at home that you're not sure about. There's some funny noises. So if there's challenges, or even with multiple dog households, I know at times we have chatted with other families. There could be something going on with one pup, which now is throwing off the other. So remember, everything is kind of connected like a spider web. So we do want to make sure that the place in which they're spending most of their time, which is at home, is going to be conducive to setting up your puppy for success for down the road. Good job, cutie. But we'll give our handsome Mr. L a little breather. He did a really, really gorgeous job, and then we'll rotate through these babies again. But very impressive for Mr. L.